Welcome back now to the top political story, Veera, that reached the court today. Supreme Court has made it clear that it will not stay the ongoing special intensive revision of electoral rolls in poll-bound Bihar, but has raised serious concerns about its timing, intent and also the safeguards. While acknowledging that there is some logic to the Election Commission's effort to clean up the voter list, court has also flagged grave risks of exclusion, especially so close to the assembly polls. It reminded the Election Commission of India, the ECI, that citizenship verification is the domain of the Union Home Ministry, and it has also cautioned EC against using the revision process as a proxy for deciding who's a citizen of the country and who is not.
That's right. The petitioners, including MPs from the India Bloc and civil society groups, warn that the revision could disenfranchise thousands, particularly from marginalized and poor communities, due to complex procedures and the lack of accepted documentation. The verification process relied heavily on physical presence and additional papers, while the EC has now allowed more forms of ID like Aadhaar, ration card and voter ID. The court questioned whether the tight timeline and lack of transparency could deny voters a fair chance to appeal deletions or errors. It directed the Election Commission to submit a detailed procedural plan by July 21st, with the next hearing set for the 28th of July.
That's right, Veera. There's also politics that has played out over this. Politically, this controversy has sparked fierce protests from the opposition. In fact, Rahul Gandhi, Congress leader, also led a march in Patna yesterday, accusing the ECI of acting under pressure to also ensure voter suppression. In fact, the BJP and ECI also maintain that the process is legal, necessary, and they have maintained that this is to clean up the rolls of duplication and also weed out those entries which are not eligible. Now, as the case returns to the court later this month, like you pointed out, the judgment could in some ways reshape the boundaries of electoral roll revisions in election years. But how will that happen? That is what we try and discuss tonight. We will get in a panel of experts, but first, some reactions.
मैं समझता हूं कि सबसे पहले तो माननीय सर्वोच्च न्यायालय का शुक्रिया। हाहाकार मचा हुआ था पूरे बिहार में, जिंदगियां उथल पुथल में थी। एग्जैक्ट अगर मैं वर्ड कहूं माननीय सर्वोच्च न्यायालय का कि प्राइमा फेसी वी बिलीव दैट इलेक्शन कमीशन मस्ट कंसीडर, यानी कि इलेक्शन कमीशन को स्वीकार करना चाहिए कि ये जो 3 दस्तावेज हैं, आधार कार्ड, ईपीआईसी वोटर आईडी कार्ड और राशन कार्ड को उन दस्तावेजों की श्रृंखला में शामिल करना चाहिए ताकि मैक्सिमम लोग इंक्लूड किए जा सके। मैं समझता हूं करोड़ों बिहारियों की जीत है। इस प्रक्रिया को पारदर्शी बने रहना चाहिए। अप्रोच ये होना चाहिए कि ये इंक्लूजन में तब्दील हो, एक्सक्लूजन में तब्दील ना हो।
विपक्ष को एक बार फिर से करारा झटका लगा। सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने स्पष्ट निर्देश दिया है कि बिहार में एसआईआर जारी रहेगा, विशेष पुनर्निरीक्षण जारी रहेगा। सुप्रीम कोर्ट का जो भी निर्देश है उसका अक्षरतः पालन होगा। इलेक्शन कमीशन का भारतीय जनता पार्टी पूर्ण सहयोग करेगी और अब तो हम ये सलाह देते हैं विपक्ष को कि अब रोना धोना छोड़े और इस पूरी प्रक्रिया में इलेक्शन कमीशन का साथ दे, क्योंकि अब सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने भी बिल्कुल स्पष्ट तौर पे कह दिया है कि ये प्रक्रिया जारी रहेगी।
We are joined by Charu Pragya of the BJP. We have Adil Boparai of the Congress party. We have Kapil Sankla, who's a lawyer and an expert. We also have Amitabh Tiwari, political analyst. Thank you all of you for joining us on this broadcast. Charu Pragya, to you first. You heard what the Supreme Court said. Supreme Court has questioned ECI on the timing of SIR, saying that, this is happening during the poll season. It has in fact said that ECI has gone to the root of democracy and power to vote. It has rejected the argument that the ECI did not have the power to carry it, which is of some relief to you. But how do you see this mixed observations by the court? Clearly, a lot of safeguards have been suggested. Exclusion has been raised. Do you see this as the time for ECI to course correct?
Vasudha, very good evening to you and to all our viewers. I think today the Supreme Court's stand has been very nuanced and it is not anti-election commission in any manner whatsoever. The most important things to note here is, one, the SIR has been held to be completely constitutional and the opposition has been advised to not label it as unconstitutional or even artificial. There is no stay on that. That process must continue to happen because that's what a transparent democracy is all about. And if there are issues that the Supreme Court is asking for further clarity on, that will be provided by the Election Commission. But when the question on timing is raised, I think it's a fair one, but we have precedents in our past. For example, in 2002, a similar exercise was conducted in over 20 states. A similar exercise was also conducted in 2019, just before Delhi elections in 2020. And the Election Commission is well versed with an exercise like this and it is able to carry it forward in a very clear, transparent way. So, the nuances of the observations today cannot be confused with the demands of the opposition.
But Charu, a lot of petitioners have said that they didn't really ask for this stay, but your points are valid. Adil Singh Boparai, ECI is saying that 58% of the people have actually submitted the forms, and almost 90% of the forms which have been printed have been distributed. Why is there so much gap between what the ECI is saying and what you're saying is the ground reality?
Well, Vasudha, firstly, the ECI and the BJP are one. Let me make that point very clear. In fact, the ECI should stop wasting prime government land in central Delhi, and they should perhaps lease out a floor from the BJP at their national head office. Point number one. Point number two, the Supreme Court has expressed what the country is stating in very eloquent terms. The Supreme Court has prima facie expressed that the ECI does not have the requisite infrastructure or the requisite wherewithal to conduct such an intensive exercise in a short span on the eve of the elections. This is exactly what the Congress party and the other opposition parties have been saying ad nauseum. Point number three, the Supreme Court has also directed the Election Commission of India to consider Aadhaar, the voter ID, and the ration card as one of the documents for the purposes of this exercise. What does this mean? This is what the Congress and the RJD was stating again and again, that when you rely upon 11 documents as per the EC circular, most of those documents are made on the basis of the Aadhaar. So how can you say that we are not going to accept the Aadhaar when the documents on which you intend to rely upon are made on the basis of the Aadhaar? Point number four, my friend is confusing a summary exercise with a special intensive exercise. Let me say this with responsibility. Never before in the history of the country has an intensive exercise of this nature been done, which completely makes the voter rolls redundant. A summary revision was done in Bihar in January.
Right.
That summary revision continues to hold the field. Obviously, at the BJP's behest, the Election Commission of India is now carrying out an intensive exercise which will efface the earlier electoral rules.
Okay,
So
we'll
this
have to take a response from Charu.
Number five.
Charu, ECI is saying that it's already taking Aadhaar as per page number 16 of SIR. In fact, it's also saying that EPIC number is also pre-printed in the enumeration forms. Why is there so much confusion? Because the list of 11 documents clearly don't seem to be exhaustive or adequate for a state like Bihar, which is often document scarce.
Vasudha?
Yeah, Charu, yeah.
Thank you. So, the Election Commission has a list of 11 documents, and any one of these 11 documents will suffice. The reason why the Aadhaar is being discussed so much is because Aadhaar is a proof of residency. It can also be issued to a foreign national who's residing here in India. It's not a proof of citizenship. And that difference has been made clear again and again. Now, of course, we have to wait for the next hearing at the Supreme Court, where we'll see what the Election Commission says. But I have a feeling, Vasudha, that the opposition continues to clutch at straws when elections are very close. They have moved the Supreme Court time and time again over an issue which is aligned with elections, and every single time they have fallen flat on their faces. They started with the EVMs. When that didn't gain any traction, they went on and talked about VVPATs and they said they don't match. After that, they cast aspersions on the election commissioner himself. Then they are talking about the voter roll in Maharashtra. They're not even sure
Adil,
what they are quoting. come up with a new number.
But Charu, the
Adil, what is
point that the
number?
opposition has raised is also the hurried exercise, the timing of the exercise and the fact that it's being done in a hurried manner. Adil, very quick response to you before I go to Kapil and Amitabh Tiwari.
Veera, the BJP is not able to understand something very elementary. It can be nobody's case that somebody who's not a citizen of India should be allowed to vote. That is not our case. We have no problem with that proposition. The difficulty is, does the ECI and the Bihar administration, in a short span of 3 to 6 weeks, have the requisite infrastructure to actually screen 9 crore people? And in a state where the ground reality is not hidden, there are people from very poor strata. There are people who don't have these documents. A startling number, which NDTV viewers must know. Only 3%, as per the government survey.
No, re-verification
only
is already
3% of people.
3% of the voters.
Please don't speak over me,
No, one
only
minute. Let Adil finish, and I just need to go across to Kapil as well.
Only 3% of people have passports in Bihar. And you're making the passport as one of the primary documents for the purposes of voting. Veera, not a single citizen should be left out.
Okay,
If an eligible
Charu,
citizen is
respond
left
to
out
that.
of the right to vote,
Kapil, there are multiple arguments here. One is political, the other is a question of trust, and then there is a legal point as well. How do we reconcile the situation right now? Where do you see this going?
Well, that is exactly what the Honorable Supreme Court has tried to do, is to reconcile the differences between two viewpoints. And as much as I would like to say that both the persons are correct, but there is also what the law is. One, the Honorable Supreme Court has stated that if you believe that Aadhaar is not the correct document for a person's identity, you show us the reason. We are not asking you to include or not include somebody's name. Secondly, as far as the second issue is concerned, that SIR has never been done before, that is correct. This is a special intensive revision, never been done, but the Representative People Act fundamentally gives the power to ECI to either conduct an intensive revision or to conduct something called the summary revision. Summary revision has been done before. Intensive revision is a very, so to say, very hardcore exercise because it goes to the very root of whether a person can actually vote or not. And that is the exercise that is being done today. Why is it being called an SIR? Because they've created a floor test, so to say, that they will go downward up to 2003. And not beyond that.
That's a very important point, Charu. I'm coming to you next. A quick comment from Amitabh Tiwari. Sir, how do you see this issue playing out politically? Because if you say that it's polarizing voters, and if there is fear, there also seems to be fear amongst all poor, right? So it's all about who is better prepared with documents now.
No, essentially,
Vasudha, I was just quickly saying the last thing. I'm so sorry, but I was just saying that the Honorable Supreme Court, just to say this very shortly, has actually considered what Adil was saying and stated, no, ECI does have the power of SIR and has questioned its certain issues, which Adil correctly stated, were perhaps introducing Aadhaar and other, which the ECI stated are not exhaustive and only illustrative. That is all.
So in some ways, it is saying that safeguards are important, but also widening the powers of ECI. Amitabh Tiwari, what do you have to say about the political potential of an exercise like the SIR?
No, see, essentially both the parties today have something to cheer about, and the last word on this has not yet been heard, correct? Because the court is going to rehear the matter on July 28th. The legality of it was, I would say, never in question. It is more about the timing and the list of documents which are being asked to prove that you are a citizen of India. Right. Now, court has inserted a new twist to this. Is that the Election Commission of India cannot decide on the citizenship of a person. So if the objective of the exercise is to weed out illegal voters, then perhaps the Election Commission cannot do it. So it's a circular reference which we have gone into, because today you can get your election card made just on the basis of Aadhaar. You just need an Aadhaar. You don't need any citizenship proof to get a voter ID made. You just need to declare that I am a citizen of India. Correct? Right. So what happened is that this case is likely to have significant implications, because the objective of, or the eligibility is that a person has to be citizen of India, 18 years of age, and reside in that constituency
Right.
to be a voter. But when voter ID cards are made,
Okay.
nobody is asking
Okay,
for a
right.
citizenship.
Closing
The
remarks,
Election
Charu.
Commission of
Yeah, Charu,
India
you wanted to
cannot
say
decide on
something.
citizenship.
Right, Charu, you wanted to say something.
Yes, I wanted to point out that in the past we have seen, especially if I can use the example of West Bengal, and this example has been upheld by the court also when challenged by the opposition. Around 16 lakh voters were flagged and they were found to be either duplicate, fake, or existing ID cards of people who already deceased. That is something that we have to be careful about. My other second example is that during Operation Sindoor, it was found that there were so many people living in India who were citizens of Pakistan who claimed to have even voted in Indian elections. If the Supreme Court is cleaning out the process, we have to give
20
it due
seconds to Adil
respect
for his
and
closing remarks.
please let's remember.
Veera,
Go
WhatsApp
ahead.
information cannot be the basis of carrying out such a mammoth exercise. Number two,
Challenge
your
in court,
viewers
Adil.
need to understand. Your
court
viewers
case.
need to understand that the Election Commission of India is not authorized to determine citizenship of individuals. That is the work of the MHA. Don't delegate it to your associates or your extensions in the BJP. And number three, the EC doesn't have the infrastructure. Do you expect a Tehsildar to go
Points
to
made,
3 crore
Vasudha.
houses
Strong
in a
points on all sides,
constituency and
but
determine this?
it'll ultimately be the Supreme Court's last word.
Absolutely,
Yes.
Veera, and we will hear from the Supreme Court very soon, is what we understand. Political analyst Yogendra Yadav also joins us, but before that, thank you all of you for joining us on this broadcast. Thank you, Mr. Yadav, for your time, for speaking to NDTV. Mr. Yadav, you are one of the petitioners before the Supreme Court. The top court did not stay the exercise, but has asked some important questions, and the timing of it, and also the inclusion of Aadhaar, etc. I know that you did not push for the stay, but the process is going to go on. Do you see this as a setback? How do you look at this?
What has happened today is the first substantial victory for those of us who saw this as a possible disenfranchisement of the voters. In the course of hearing, mind you, it was 4 hours of hearing. The court obviously took it very seriously, set all other business aside and gave time to it, which recognized the fact that these concerns that we had expressed, and more than me, organizations like ADR, POCL, and many political parties had expressed, this was a serious concern. Number two, the court asked questions to the Election Commission, very hard questions, and I'm sure your legal reporter would have told you what happened in the court today. The court asked searching questions to the Election Commission for which they had no response. Justice Dhulia clearly said, don't go into the Citizenship Election Commission. This is not your business. This is the business of the Ministry of the Government, not your business. Justice Bagchi absolutely made it clear that if you take out even one person from the voters list, you have to go through established procedure, which is long. Both of them wondered how this procedure could have been accomplished in a year's time, in the time of a few months. Justice Bagchi repeatedly said, you want to improve voters list, lovely, but why are you connecting it to the Bihar election? The Election Commission had no answer to these questions. The Election Commission only harped on the fact that, look, our list is indicative, it is not exhaustive. A very funny argument, that this wording that they have used in the order itself, the Election Commission. But they had only this. And both the judges said, if you have Aadhaar listed in the Election Commission's own rules, how can you not recognize Aadhaar? How can you not accept your own EPIC card? How do you not accept ration card?
While you point that out, sir, the fact that the court observed that the ECI is within its rules to carry out the revision, while questioning the timing as well, do you think that widens the EC's powers in a sense?
No one had questioned the Election Commission of India's power to frame the electoral rolls. The court asked our counsel, are you questioning that? And we said, no, that's not, I mean, who can question it? Of course, it's written into the Constitution. How does it widen? It's a ridiculous thought and suggestion. The Supreme Court simply said, look, your powers to do so are not under question. What is being questioned And Justice Thulia clearly framed it. And he said, what is being questioned is the manner in which you are exercising that power. What is being questioned is the timing in which you are doing it. What is also being questioned is your power to include citizenship issue into that. That is what was questioned. And if you would recall, the order of the Supreme Court clearly says, and it's a very unusual order, where the Supreme Court clearly says in our prima facie opinion, justice demands that Aadhaar card, ration card, EPIC should be included. They have put the Election Commission of India on a tight leash. For someone like me who was just watching there, it was quite clear that the Election Commission has put them on a notice to say, all right, we give you a chance. If you don't, we may be constrained to give an order. How can that be seen as widening Election Commission's power? I find it funny, to say the least, and I'm very sorry to see people doing that.
Right. Mr. Yadav, the opposition has been saying that this exercise has seriously impacted lives of people in Bihar, but has the opposition also been able to mobilize the masses the way it should have, considering its claims to make the ECI listen to these same voices that it's talking about?
I believe there have been protests all over Bihar, and I do assume that the opposition does not mobilize people in opposition to Election Commission the same way that it would do in opposition to a government order. And I'm very glad the opposition has maintained that distinction. Protesting against a government is about public mobilization. Protesting against Election Commission of India is still to respect and still to urge the Election Commission to please perform its duty. Even if it is a pretense, the pretense of the independence of Election Commission or autonomy must be respected.
So the mobilization on the one side, the fears, arguments and the accusations have raised serious questions over the credibility of the election process itself. Isn't there a dangerous consequence to this?
I'm sure Election Commission should be worried about it, because the reputation and legitimacy, credibility of Election Commission has sunk so much that someone like me, who was virtually an informal ambassador of the Election Commission, now is ashamed of it. I suggest this very simple thing to all your viewers who are listening to this. You must have a friend or a relative in Bihar, possibly someone in a village in Bihar. Please call 5 such people you know in Bihar and ask them, has someone visited your home and given you the forms? And if 1 or 2 of those 5 say, no, we haven't, it means Election Commission is lying, because Election Commission says 98% people have been given so. Please also ask them, have you already filled the form and given it to the Election Commission? If 3 of them do not say that we have already given it, then Election Commission is lying once again, because according to Election Commission, now more than 60% people have filled these things. These are unbelievable figures. I challenge the Election Commission. Please release this list and we will demonstrate that this is a lie. It's very sad to do this to a constitutional institution. Election Commission, unfortunately, is ruining its reputation, which was built by some very hard work.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Yogendra Yadav, for joining us on NDTV.